Hello, everyone. I am Kendrew, the host of Taboo Topic, and I am joined for another edition of Voters Eye, where we come in from the perspective of the concerned citizen, more of an interview format. I am joined by the host of the show, Agree to Disagree show, Luigi. Luigi, how
Hello.
are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Ken. How about you?
Never better. It's a crazy world we're living in, isn't it?
It really is. It's you know what? I don't know. I don't know where to start tonight. We were talking off air. I don't know this. You probably reached out to me. You're probably thinking, "What the hell are those Canadians doing?"
Well, a lot of Americans are also wondering what the heck's going on in Canada. And that's really the focus of today's episode is Canadian politics and the update, pretty much like post-Freedom Convoy, which happened, it seems so long ago now, but it actually happened earlier this year.
Yeah.
And so a lot has happened. I mean, you have the situation with the economy, woke politics, and the education system, and just Justin Trudeau in general, the little tyrant. We'll be discussing as far as whether or not you believe he is ignorant or whether or not he actually is that dumb, or maybe a little bit of both. Maybe he, or like a third option, a little bit of both, and he just loves the power and he has like a lust for power in general. So
I'm trying to figure it out. I've been trying to figure it out for quite a while now, and I don't know. I don't know. Um, I'm starting to think that he's just really good at believing his own lies, and truly, he actually thinks that maybe everything he does is virtuous and it's for the greater good of Canadians. I think I think he's starting to believe it. And he's so good at evading questions, especially in Parliament, and especially when he's on put on the spot, even with interviewers.
mhm.
But what he's done, just it's nonstop, Ken. It's nonstop, nonstop. One thing after
Yeah.
the other, one controversy after the other, and then once it's done and he moves on to the next thing, it's like whatever he did never happened. It's like he's so good at it. Like, to his credit, I have to give the guy some credit. He's just amazing. He really is amazing, like a magician. Like, it just disappears. It's like like it has no bearing on the current situation what he's done in the past, when it does tremendously. And we'll talk about that now, the ramifications and the after, the fallout from the Freedom Convoy, and just everything else, and the economy. It's right now is a total and utter mess.
Well, besides the Canadian politics and everything with that, let's go ahead and like update my audience. Like, how have you been? How's life? How's your podcast doing too?
My well, thanks. My podcast is doing really well. We're up to 71 episodes and going strong. I've tried to change it up a little bit, not to change it up, but I want to focus a little less on politics and more social issues.
Hmm.
For example, we did last episode was about bullying and what we could do to change, any
Yeah.
modifications we can make in the education system in regards to that.
Right.
Um, Next week, I'm doing one. I'm going to have an Indigenous woman, Canadian woman, on my podcast, and we're going to talk about Indigenous issues and how horribly, again, the Canadian government has failed this population over the years historically, and again they continue to today. So that's where I'm leaning towards, stuff that really I think for me matters, and for me that I want to educate myself and put it out there. And the feedback has been great, and I just enjoy speaking to people that I could learn, and that's where I'm going. I mean, we're always going to talk about the politics, obviously, because it is about, I do discuss
Right.
current events, politics, and social issues, pop culture, but I'm really trying to focus on the social issues right now that
Hmm.
affect us personally. Yeah.
Well, I also saw you took a small hiatus from your show, so I'm assuming that was the time when you were figuring out like how to reamp your show. I'm assuming.
Not really. Well, I was trying to, I took the summer off basically, and it was just to spend time with my boys. Both my boys play baseball, as you know,
Yeah.
and it was really just to spend time with them, coach them both, and it was a beautiful summer. I watched them both blossom into wonderful baseball players. And so it was really that. It was family time. My wife is home because she's a teacher, so she's off in summer, and it was just
Yeah.
a beautiful summer. It was just family time with her and our boys. So it was 6 days a week minimum at the park. So it was just beautiful. I loved it. It was just, and you know what? It made me just get away from podcasting, and then I started to miss it again, and that's when I get even more hungry and even more angry and animated during the podcast. So I think it does me well. I think it does me well. So now there's no more breaking now, and we're going full steam ahead. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I could see you as well. I mean, your podcast, you've been doing great. You're starting a new one now as well. Love the intro, love what you're doing. So
Oh,
kudos to you,
appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, like reamping. I feel like heads up to my audience out there. The holiday season is approaching and everything like that. I'm actually planning on probably taking a break for the holiday season to kind of what you did as far as like spend time with friends and family members and pretty much recharge for the new year and everything like that. Because when the new year comes in, I'll be like you. Like during that whole break, I'll get recharged and I'll start getting angry again about the about current events. And before you know it, I'll have more to say, more to offer my show when I do come back.
I think it's important, Ken. I'll be honest with you. I think it's important. I know that number one rule in podcasting is to just put out content, keep going, keep
Right.
going. But because of the way the format of my show, it's not like I don't pre-record. I don't like pre-recording. So as you know, my shows are live. So I don't
Right.
pre-record. So it was literally nothing was released this
Mm-hmm.
summer. But you do need that break. And for me, that's for sure. So
Especially in the world of politics, it's
yeah,
good to take a step back from the world of politics, especially like how fast the news travels. It could just be overwhelming, like how much information you get at once. Whereas, well, while you were growing up, not trying to show your age, but while you were growing up, the news it seemed like you guys had more time to consume the news that we were given at the time versus now.
yeah.
And that's why you see a lot more people burnt out by the news or having burnouts in general, I would think.
Definitely. I was there because I have just on my notes on my iPhone, every time I come across a story that I want to cover, I put it in my notes in my podcast notes, right? And so I was looking back at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so like so old and forget it. I mean, it's moved on. And
Mhm.
but I look at it and it's just I'm like, Luigi, it's all negative. It's all negative. It's all negative.
Mhm.
So it is it for me it weighs heavy on me sometimes. So that's why you do need a break, just like you, because American politics are not any better than Canadian, that's for sure. We all know that. So
Almost identical.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, listen, before we talk it, what is I know we've had this discussion and I'm just curious again. Joe Biden, I mean, no, but seriously, okay, the guy is maybe a step away from putting a bib on and having to be fed his cereal. I don't understand. It's really I'm not trying to make fun of him. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
sad for me. It's sad. It's
Uh-huh.
sad to see this, but it just um, emphasizes how far the Democrats are willing to go to literally put anyone in power um when you see him, and it's sad, it's depressing. You see him in news conferences and in interviews falling asleep and shaking a hand and that's not there. I mean, and this person is
Right.
the leader of the United States of America.
Well, you still have half the country that still questions the validity of that last statement.
Yes,
That-
yeah.
and I would be that person as far as like I still question. Like I just have a hard time imagining the American people really wanted a walking vegetable, more or less.
It's just I don't know.
Like he
It's
can't complete a sentence, and he actually has like an outline as far as like who to call on when it comes to like asking questions. Like he actually has a list of people that they give him. Like, hey, just call on this person. They're going to ask you this question. Like, what kind of president? How is he a president at this point?
I don't know. I don't know. And there was running bets on the Joe Rogan podcast in terms of how
Mhm.
long he would last. Would he be able to finish out his term? I mean, what are we at now?
Ooh.
What are we at now? Two.
We got 2 more years left of him.
I mean, is he honest to God, is he gonna make it? The guy scares me, man. I really does. He looks
uh,
he looks like
here's
a
a Go
corpse.
ahead.
He looks
Yeah, I agree. And I've actually, weirdly enough, I actually had a dream once where I'm not kidding. Like I had a dream once that I was actually like at DC and Joe Biden was talking, and all of a sudden like his entire face like came off, and it was a totally different person. Like because he's a puppet, but he's
yeah.
like, and someone's like, but someone's literally pushing him to like do these things that clearly like he doesn't have the mental capacity to do anymore to begin with. And so I think for me anyway, I would give him at least the rest of the term. I'm not sure he can actually do 2 terms though. Like I just do not. If he does like make it win the reelection campaign, which based on the current sentiment anyway, I highly doubt he'll get a second term. But if let's say hypothetical, not to knock on wood, not to jinx myself, but hypothetically, if he actually did win, like I don't see him going past like maybe 1 year after that.
So you're saying that you seriously saying that the Democrats would actually put him up again?
Yes, especially if Donald Trump runs again, like they would rather have a walking vegetable than have Donald Trump in office.
Can't the DeSantis beat or be a better option than Trump? In my eyes, he is, but maybe I'm
I
totally off.
well, it depends on what you want, I would say. And the Republican base here in America, the party still belongs to Trump. And majority of Republican voters here, and registered voters anyway, they are heavily favoring Trump, mainly because like he is that, I don't know. A lot of people find him appealing in the sense that because the establishment keeps going after him in the same, not honestly, like the way the establishment goes after Trump is not nearly the same as how they go after DeSantis. So you can make the argument, I would say, that DeSantis gives them less ammo to work with. It's based on like how he presents himself and how he talks to the media versus Trump. Trump is a lot more lambastic when he talks. At the same time, though, there is an appeal to someone who, like, kind of like the anti-hero, essentially. Like, everyone loves a good villain in a story that you kind of cheer for, I would say. And Trump is kind of like that person for a Republican base.
Yeah.
Like, because the establishment is so despised here in America, and I'm sure it's despised by the Canadians as well and their establishment over there, that Donald Trump, even though like he's literally the same age. I think he may be 1 year younger than Biden, but they would rather have someone like Trump in office who will hold no punches back. And I think that's the other reason why many Republican voters are, I would say, are appealed by Trump, because if he wins re-election, let's say, that would be his second term in office, which the U.S. Constitution said they cannot serve more than 2 terms in office. And so when you have that, you pretty much at that point have nothing to lose if you're in your second term. You don't have to worry about like re-election anymore. Yeah. Whereas DeSantis, like he would have to worry about re-election if he ran and actually became president. And so they want someone who will be in there or will hold no punches back towards the establishment at this point.
I don't really, honestly, the way I see it as an outsider, I see it as someone that DeSantis will not hold back, because he certainly doesn't now.
Sure.
He's much better spoken.
I agree.
His ideas are more concise and well planned out, and his words are chosen, and he has a plan for everything, and you know where you stand with him. I would honestly, that's puzzling for me. It really is. I would, the things I've heard him say, and yes, sometimes but I just love since COVID. Like I said, it's so well thought out. Every answer is well thought out. You clearly know where you stand with him. He fights for just common sense. I think he would be a great president, honestly.
And a lot of Republican voters here would say like Trump 2024, DeSantis 2028, and they like the idea of a Trump DeSantis ticket. Like DeSantis is the vice president, and then DeSantis is running 2020 as like this, Republican dynasty, whatever.
Tag team wrestling.
Tag team wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, and then to an extent, like if it weren't for Trump, I don't feel like Florida wouldn't have a DeSantis, because Trump did set a path for those kind of conservatives, MAGA conservatives anyway, who are outspoken, not politically correct, and are willing to put the interests of their people first over any outside influences. Which people like Joe Biden, the Democrat, it's just really the establishment in general. I wouldn't even just limit to the Democrat Party. I think there's such a thing as a uni party at this point, where the Republican base and the Democrat base, they're really the same. They're not that different, in my opinion, at this point. But that said, we'll see. We have to get through the midterms first.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So hopefully there's a red wave, because yeah, the prices here are getting ridiculous too, and I'm not a fan.
A lot of things are coming out of control, are just completely out of control in my country, as we alluded to before. So I know that's why you wanted to get our perspective on things. So
yeah, which, by the way, folks, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, hit the notification bell to boost my self-esteem. At least I know most of us don't hit the notification bell, but please help my self-esteem out by hitting the notification bell. And also follow my friend Luigi at his show, Agree to Disagree Show. If you wouldn't mind, Luigi, giving your plugins for the show as far as where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, social media on Instagram and Facebook at Agree to Disagree Show, and everywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, anywhere and everywhere. Agree to Disagree Show.
And I've been on his show once, and he's been on my show. This is actually the second time Luigi's been on my show. So by all means, it's a good conversation every time we get together. So it's going to be another good conversation, of course, coming up this evening. And I got to ask the audience as well, like, based on what we talked about as far as politics of American politics and Canadian politics being identical, which nation's rubbing off each other? Is it Canadian politics rubbing off American politics, or is it American politics rubbing off Canadian politics?
I don't know. I'd love to see the answers of that, but you know what? I mean, Canadian politics used to be considered boring. That is no longer the case. I could assure you, my friend. It's not boring. Unfortunately, it's not boring for the good reason. But there's so much going on right now. So I know you wanted to get to that. So where do we even begin?
Well, let's go ahead and really just discuss the current state of Canadian politics since the Freedom Convoy. With the first part that caught my attention was the assisted suicide policy. Please expand on my American audience. What the hell is that about? And what are some misconceptions about the policy itself?
Yeah. Well, basically, they want to. The government wants to make an amendment. Of course, it's a liberal government, right? Under Justin Trudeau.
Right.
So basically, they want to make an amendment to the doctor-assisted death amendment, that they want to include the mentally ill. Okay. Where, of course, obviously, some experts are saying it could become the most permissive jurisdiction in the world, which doesn't surprise me, because Justin Trudeau, says anything goes, right?
Right.
We have to be free. We have to be free, of course, when it comes to bodily autonomy, when it comes to vaccinations. But we're going to get to that point after. That doesn't count. That doesn't count, Ken.
Nope.
You don't have bodily autonomy, but you could choose to end your own life. I'm worried about this in a way or not, because I've always been a believer in saying, who are we to decide how a person is suffering and to what point? But the problem is that it's not measurable when it's mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So there within lies the issue, right?
Right.
So you like it's, the article says it perfectly. You can't see depression on a scan,
Right.
with the exception of dementia, where imaging can show structural brain changes. In psychiatry, really all you have is the patient's story and what you see with your eyes, and you hear, and what the family tells you, because this has so many moral, financially, physiologically, it has so many implications, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens here? Is it just people that are depressed and looking for an actual legal way out? So maybe that the family could actually, right, get the insurance on the policy, and rather than saying, oh, it was a government assisted suicide, so it could be it could be considered legally, or maybe not looked upon or frowned upon so badly.
Right.
So that there's so many lines here, right? But I'm
Mhm.
not surprised. I'm not surprised because, I mean, the government is basically saying, I know the way, and I want to get your feedback on this, is again, because we discussed this when we spoke about abortion, right?
Right.
And you opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I looked at it differently after that discussion we had.
Hmm.
So for me, it's impossible, it's difficult to say. But when basically, what people are calling this is state sanctioned government murder, basically, is what they're calling it, right? That's
Right.
what they're calling it. So, but then again, I don't want to be that guy to say, but who decides, right? Who decides, Ken?
Hmm.
The government's going to decide. The government can't even decide whether or not we should have transgender bathrooms. The government can't even decide, or can't even admit to their failings and their disastrous handling of COVID, and they're going to decide of whether who gets to live or die. So
Yeah.
it's a scary thought. It's not an easy thing to discuss. And also, right, you're putting this onto doctors,
Hmm.
and besides everything else that they have to deal with in terms of a healthcare system that is overrun. Again, we're there again. we're,
Right.
we're there again. Hospitals, emergency rooms are overrun. No, not with COVID.
Right.
Because actually, what? Guess what, Ken? The flu came back to Canada.
It exists again.
Can you believe that?
I Oh, really? I thought we were done with the flu.
I thought we eradicated the flu. I wow. I'm
Oh
not a
gosh.
doctor. I'm not a doctor. Um, so in one year from now, in March 2023, Canada will become one of the few nations in the world allowing medical aid in dying, or MAID is how they call the program, for
Hmm.
people whose sole underlying condition is depression, bipolar disorder, personality disorders, schizophrenia, PTSD, or any other mental affliction. In the Netherlands, MAID for irremediable psychiatric suffering has been regulated by law since 2002.
Hmm.
So, how do you define grievous and irremediable in psychiatry? In psychiatry, how do you define that? Can the person come back? Depression? Oof, I don't know, Ken. I mean, I'm not going to say any names. I have friends or family members that suffer from depression, but with a little bit of therapy and drugs, they're doing okay. They're trying to live a productive life and being
Yeah.
productive,
Hmm.
um, as friends, as uncles, as aunts, as parents. Um, so I I really don't know where I stand with this. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. But I
Yeah.
want to, like, how do you see it? Do you see it as, because I don't think the government wants to get into the business of murdering people or making it legal.
You're
I
right.
just I don't know. Are we making it too easy to cop out? I hate to use that word,
Hmm.
but are we making it too easy? It-
So I think the first thing that we have to acknowledge is like we have a sick society in the West in general.
yes.
Not only from a physical standpoint, but also the mental health standpoint. And actually, many people don't realize, but the two coincide together a lot of times. Your physical health will affect your mental health.
Yeah.
And so, to an extent, I guess for me, it's just like I don't see, kind of like what I was saying about abortion when I was on your show. I don't see how a doctor could legally or look at someone in the eye and say, you know what, your life is warranted a death sentence at this point.
Hmm.
Like, to me, it almost seems like a violation of their Hippocratic oath to try to make people better, essentially. And so by assisting them in killing themselves, regardless, the conversation to me seems more like a band-aid to a deeper issue going on. And the deeper issue going on in the West is really the realities of secularism. And when you remove the idea of a higher authority in society, then you lose that sight of there's a higher purpose or higher calling in life that gives you value and gives you, that feeling that life is worth living, at least.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, I just can't, because I deal with depression myself. And so I can't imagine, and it's interesting because I've said this before about transgenderism, as far as, imagine if someone looked at me and said, you know what, Ken, your feelings about depression are validated. And if you want to go ahead, end your life, go ahead and pursue that life. Like, how destructive of a message that is. In the same way we tell people who are struggling with gender dysphoria, as far as go ahead and destroy your entire biology to become someone you're not, essentially.
Yeah.
And so for me, when it comes to a policy like this, the conversation should be like, how can we heal people? But instead, it's basically saying, well, let's go ahead, instead of like trying to figure out and asking those hard questions, as far as how do we heal people and make people better so they can go out and live productive and purposeful lives. We're saying, go ahead, you're right in having these feelings, and if you want to pursue it, go ahead and pull the plug on yourself with this, legalization of assisted suicide we have going on.
So basically, it's okay to quit. And I love what you said, right? I love what you said is that there's a direct correlation between the separation of state and religion, which has been a huge thing, especially here in Quebec, in Canada.
Yeah.
But you see, people are lost, right?
Yeah.
So to me, honestly, Ken, it doesn't really. And again, I'm gonna resort back to Joe Rogan, because if Joe Rogan, which is a well-known atheist, could say, you know what, I could see the value in religion.
Yeah.
It's not whether or not Jesus really existed. It's not whether or not Muhammad really existed. It's not about that. It's about the message of the religion. And if this religion is giving you purpose and guidance and values in life, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? So now you have a government, for whatever reason, wanting to completely remove it and separating from changing, from school boards, because before we had Protestant, Catholic, and now no more. It's English and French school board, for example, in Quebec. That's all it is, right? So you take that away from the people, then you have this epidemic this pandemic of just people. I always said, like, when things are too good, because again, and I've said this so many times, Ken, things are so good in the timeline of history and civilization. Things have never been better for us.
Agreed.
Think about it. Do we have to go fight for food? Do we have to go shoot someone for food? Our health has never been better, but yet what we're putting in our bodies is making us sick, and our minds are sick. We're always thinking about, oh my God, what am I missing in terms of money and this? Why? And then we're just making us sick and sick and sick physically and then mentally, because as you said, the two are completely related, 100%. They're attached forever. The body and soul is always together, the body and the mind. So things are so good. Okay, now let's start inventing problems, because that's what literally is. I'm not denying that there is mental health issues, that there's chemical imbalances in the brain. That's not what I'm denying. But what I'm saying is that rather than try to find the problems and not find the problems, but find the solutions of talking it out, changing your lifestyle, relying on friends, relying on therapy, relying on religion and values and whatever. I don't care. Whatever makes you better, no. Let's just, okay, the government says it's okay. I've had enough. I'm closing my ticket, and that's it. We're good.
And how's that going to affect the younger generation when they start seeing adults, take this route? That's going to influence them because they mimic and they like to mimic adults a lot of the times.
Absolutely.
And so when they start dealing with depression or anything like that, like, okay, what's the next step? Is the government going to start letting children go ahead and pursue this route? And they may start off with like something more subtle as far as like, yeah, as long as they have parental consent, and then it'll advance to something more like, well, they don't have to get parental consent. Then you lose, which I know in Canada, as far as parental rights, that's a real struggle right now. As far as like being able to protect your kids from really destructive thoughts and ideology being presented at school in the school education system.
That's yeah.
That's a mess in itself, I imagine, in Canada right now.
Absolutely, it really is. Yes. And
someone may say, well, this is a slippery slope fallacy, and I would push back and say, well, so far every slippery slope fallacy that conservatives have talked about has become reality. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to read something. This is a great. In the mental health field, opinions are deeply divided. Mental illness is never irremediable. One side argues there is always hope for a cure, always something more to be tried, and a person's ability to think rationally, to seek an assist in death when they might have a life expectancy of decades, can't help being clouded by the very fact that they're struggling psychologically. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
That point is just really, really spoke to me. So,
yeah.
How could you make that decision when psychologically you're suffering? You cannot. How could you say that you're of sound mind to make a decision to take your own life, but you're struggling psychologically? The two can't coexist.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're not of sound mind. You're not able to make that decision. You're not. It's the same person that like a young kid that, for example, is being bullied or whatever. Something happens at schools and they're embarrassed, and the only solution for them is like it's the end of the world, suicide. No, guys, there's other solutions, because in 2-3 days it might be better and everybody's gonna forget about it. But they can't see that far. They don't have the mental capacity to go that far. It's the same way. Yeah.
As I was saying, it's a band-aid to a deeper problem.
That's right.
What happens to the term when it comes to suicide, as far as what happens to the idea of it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem? What do I happen to that mindset?
Yeah. So
you can look at like you were saying, you could look at what is the core of what's causing you to feel this way. If it's your job, there are many jobs, other careers you can pursue. If it's relational, like maybe you have a bad friend group, or maybe there's certain family members that are toxic, you can always, remove some people and replace it with others in your circle, or you can just shrink your circle overall in general.
Yeah.
You have all these options, but you only get one life.
Yeah.
You can't take that back once you make that decision. And it does affect everyone.
Absolutely. That's right. What do you leave behind, right? That's what I've always said. Who do you leave behind, and what mess do you leave behind for everyone else to clean up? And now the government's just going to try to make it easy. There has to be other solutions. We have to focus on solutions, like you said. You have to. There has to be a solution. It cannot come to the point where the government is saying that, yes, is this another cop-out? And I'm not even surprised that this comes from this government. I'm telling you guys, they're just so far out there. They're nuts, and I would consider some of them criminals. I'm serious. I'm not joking about this. I'm not even joking. I did a reel last week on Instagram. Like, at what point do you start putting these people in jail? I'm serious, Ken.
Treason?
No, like, oh my God, guys, there's so much going on in Canada. I would put half of the Liberal cabinet in jail. I swear to God, I would, if not all of it.
Well, you don't have the connections that they do, Luigi.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But it's interesting to say, as far as like the mess you leave behind, because that gets into the next conversation as far as the Queen of Britain, Queen Elizabeth, dying. And I know Britain and Canada, this part of this whole empire.
Yeah.
And so I want you to go ahead, your perspective as far as your sentiments about the Queen and how it affects Canadian politics and what she left behind and how that's going to affect Canadian politics going forward.
honestly, it just opened up again that see, because what happens is if you want to make that change to the Canadian Constitution, you have to reopen the Canadian Constitution. So, as you know, in Canada, if you do that, right, then Quebec, the province which I live in, is going to say, "Oh, since we're there and we're going to remove the monarchy from our Canadian legislature, right?
Right.
Let's look at this whole Quebec and separation and special rights for the province of Quebec.
Hmm.
This has been going on for uh, over 50 years. Okay, this uh, threat of separation in Quebec. We've already had two referendums in which the last one being very close, we still voted to stay within the Confederation of Canada. So now, now you just have certain politicians. So now there's basically two MNAs, okay, members of National Assembly, provincial members of Parliament, that basically, because we just had a provincial election, and in order to be sworn in, you have to have an oath to the king. Now,
Hmm.
not the queen, to the king. And they're refusing to do so, to pass the message or just to say, we don't need anymore. So basically, they're they won't be able to sit in the house in parliament until they do so.
Mm.
So really, can honestly, that there is really no big ramifications, really, because it's just a figurehead, and this the governor general that is the representative of the monarchy here in Canada, and basically the governor general has no power. Okay,
Hmm.
it's really just figurehead, like when the prince comes here and Prince Charles and whatever. It's just, and not, excuse me, King Charles now. It's just really a figurehead in the history. I don't know why we still have it. But the whole thing is that we don't want to open up the Constitution, because then we're opening up the proverbial can of worms, and that's going to just be a disaster. So really, honestly, it won't affect. It's not affecting, except some of these two clowns here, two clown MNAs that I can't stand, both of them here in Quebec. Not many politicians, not many politicians I like anyway, but they're just doing to be shit disturbers. So I'm actually looking forward to see what happens there if they actually end up doing it, and because yeah, they won't be able to sit in parliament until they do. So it's pretty funny. There's not much there, honestly. It's no big deal.
I see. So it's just more like as you said, the queen is just like a figurehead in Canadian politics,
Yeah,
or now the king coming up. So
yeah,
is it officially yet? Is it officially King Charles
I think so. Yeah, he has been whatever they call it.
crowned,
Yeah, crowned,
coronation, whatever? I don't
coronation.
know.
Yeah, I think it is. But it
Why the association then? What's the history behind it?
well, it's just because obviously Canada used to be part of
Great Britain.
yeah, Great Britain. So it all stems from that. It's all historical, and it's kind of
Right.
stupid that we're still doing this. I'll be honest with you. Like, just get rid of it. Open to the Constitution. Get rid of it. Come on, guys. Like, let's get with the program. But there's always that threat again from Quebec, as usual. The stupid province that I live in. Um, there's always that threat, and no politician and no prime minister wants to open up that can, not even a can, I'd probably call it a huge canister of problems, potential problems. So they're never going to do it. They'll just let it be, and that's it. Literally.
Well,
Literally.
then, well, in that case, since there's really not a whole lot there, but let's talk about something that does more affect your every single daily life,
Yeah.
the economy. And you are someone who's in the housing market, more or less, in
Yeah.
in the business of mortgages.
Yeah.
Um, so go ahead, and I want you to give the American audience, as far as like, because pretty much, as we were kind of alluding to earlier, like as far as the situation with the economy in America, there's a lot of similarities between Canada and America when it comes to the politics and the economy, such as inflation. So go ahead and explain like
Yeah.
how has that affected your life? How is it affecting the average Joe in general? Go ahead.
So things are not good right now. People are suffering, and this is where I go off in my rant. So
Okay, go ahead.
it's been a perfect storm, right? There's inflation. There's the cost of goods have skyrocketed. The
Hmm.
interest rates on our mortgages have increased 300 basis points, which basically,
Yikes.
yeah, to equate that in numbers, someone's mortgage could easily see their monthly payments increase by $200 to $300, if not more. We're not
Wow.
talking. So now you have a population that already, and I'm not sure about per capita or per income house, what debt Americans per capita are carrying. But right
Mhm.
now, historically, we have the highest debt per capita for every dollar that that Canadians earn. How much in debt do they have for that dollar? And right now, historically, it's at its highest. So now you have a population coming out of COVID, spending money, living life, and now we have all this happening. So they're already on the brink, and I
Mhm.
see it because as you mentioned, I'm in mortgages. So what we call debt ratios, right? When we're calculating how much money does this family have coming in, and how much debts do they have, including the mortgage, principal and interest, taxes and heating, and whatever else, credit cards and this and that. So those are being exceeded. So which means that it's a lot more difficult to get approved now. So to further exasperate the problem, years ago the Canadian government, put into place some new rules to make it a little bit tougher to get a mortgage. They call them stress tests, uh, which at the time, okay, made sense. But
Right.
now we're there. The stress is now, and they're not changing anything.
Mhm.
They're not changing anything. And so housing, everyone needs to understand, housing is the backbone of any economy, because everything focused around construction and housing makes everything else go around, right?
Mm.
If people have homes, if there's all the people and all the trades and everyone's in, it's a constant circle. So right now the economy is suffering. People can't afford, are making decisions because our gas prices, just with the taxes, are out of this world, right? Then you have, of course, another government that wants to be fossil fuel free, because apparently the world's coming to an end with
In
the climate.
2030.
Yeah, well, no, actually, it was supposed to come to an end 30 years because of climate change. 30 years ago, I saw an article today.
Yep.
Uh, if we don't,
And then it
if
was
we don't,
2012, and then it
yeah,
was 2018, I think.
yeah, well, no, it was even early. If we don't change before 2000 something, 2003, the world's coming to an end. We're gonna burn, and or we're gonna be flooded, and we're gonna lose entire cities and countries.
But it's a
So
crisis,
anyway,
though.
yeah,
Anyways,
it's a crisis. Anyway, 20 years later, we're still here. Can you
yeah.
believe it? So you have people making decisions in terms of, are they going to eat? Are they going to make their mortgage payment? Rents are out of this world, especially the major cities in Canada. Montreal has seen an
Mhm.
increase of, I don't know the exact statistics, but tremendous increase in rents. So it's
Mhm.
not like rents are any more affordable, because now all these landlords have to pay their mortgages, right? So they have to increase their because taxes are going up, because values are going up. So it's just a vicious circle. So Mike, here's my thing, okay? What did, and I've said this from day one, and you go
Right.
back in my podcast and you see it. I'm sorry. And I saw, what did exactly the Liberal government think? Because we all know they're not very, economics is not their strong points, okay? So what did you think was going to happen when you shut down an entire economy for 2 years? What did you think was going to happen when people can't work and can't afford anything? What do you think is going to happen when you keep giving them money? So you're printing money to them to stay home. What did you think was going to happen? Here is the result. But you know what the response to that is? I took care of Canadians. You stupid. I don't know if I could swear, but I'm going to try to stay professional. You dimwit. You took care of Canadians on the short term by printing money. You've ruined an entire generation. We will never pay back this debt. There are dark times coming for Canada. They're already here, right? They're already here. They're even saying depression, not even inflation, and not even
Same here in America. There's talk of
it,
depression here.
you know, I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
Mm.
Everyone thought you should have opened up the minute you saw, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt at the beginning. Honestly, I will. But after
Mhm.
6 months, and people are starting to scream, man, I need to go back to work. I need to make money for my family. Now, nobody wants to go back to work. As I told you off air, where why is everybody having a hard time finding employees? I don't understand, Ken. You're telling me that during COVID everybody found a job on YouTube and on social media? I don't understand. I don't
I
understand.
wish.
You
Actually,
have
no, I don't wish, because we still need like those blue collar workers,
yeah,
such as plumbers and electricians.
You have coffee shops, that can't open because they have no staff. I don't get it. You have restaurants that have no staff. You have even big box stores that have no McDonald's. McDonald's. Having difficulty bringing in employees to stay open. There's some of them are in my area closing a dining room at 10 p.m. Since when? It's crazy. Again, I just would like to have him in front of me. You dumb dimwit. What did you think was going to happen? You didn't take care of Canadians. You ruined us. On the contrary, you ruined us even worse. We're worse off by taking that money, taking the money, $600, $1,000 a month, $200 a week, whatever it was. I mean, luckily I was not affected, so I didn't need it, and I didn't take it. But not only that, they had to pay back when they did their taxes, right? At least 30% back to the government.
Oh, wow.
The amount of, and we don't even see the end result yet. How many more suicides are we going to see? How many more depressions are we going to see because of this?
And that's where the assisted suicide policy comes in.
Well, it's perfect. Yeah, we caused the problem because everyone knows this is this. They're calling it a government made 100%. Not depression, but
recession.
Recession. Thank you. A government made recession. It's clear. It's clear as day. We saw the writing was on the wall from day one.
Is the Canadian government incentivizing people to stay in instead of to go out to work? Is that what's going on? Like, why aren't people working, do you think?
I don't know, Ken. That's why I even asked you. I don't know, because they stopped giving the government grants or whatever you want to call them, right? Once everyone was going back to work.
Yeah.
So, but now people, I don't know what's going. Like people, they got comfortable. They'd rather stay home and not make any money, or collect employment insurance, because we do have employment insurance in Canada. But
are they taking inspiration from California with the homelessness?
Well, like I've never seen such an uptick in homelessness in Montreal. So that's definitely an issue.
Really?
I don't know where all these people have gone. I don't know where they're working. There's work everywhere. And I read a report that next year, was it Montreal or Quebec or Canada? Anyway, I think next year, Montreal or Quebec, the salaries offered by employers are going to be historically the highest ever. But what's going? I know that the salaries that because they have to find workers are there now. So where does everybody want to work? What do you want to do? Did everybody find themselves all of a sudden during COVID? They stayed home. I think I want to be I don't know, a philosopher. I think I want to be a transgender activist. What, did everybody find themselves? Nobody wants to work anymore. My friend, it's a running gag. One of my buddies, good friends, he goes, but look, can I ask you, literally every time we're talking, he goes, does anybody want to work anymore? He owns a restaurant. And every time, the first thing, hey, bud, how's it going? Good, Yulu. Look, can I ask you a question? Sure, John. Does anybody want to work anymore? I don't know if it's the generation. I don't know if it's the snowflake generation. I don't know what it is, Ken. I was hoping maybe you would have some answers, but you probably don't know either. I don't understand either. So that's the situation's not good right now. It really is not good, and it's gonna get worse. You're on mute. Sorry, bud.
Sorry. I keep reverting back to this because I think this is the core issue of all the problems in the West these days, but I think it's just the consequences of secularism. In the world of secularism, or at least in the world where religion thrives, you have, especially Christianity, like there's like this emphasis of hard work. You have to work in order to get what you want and to pay your bills. Otherwise, you will go home, you'll go homeless, go hungry, and everything like that. And so it was really emphasized when that society was based on that. People wanted to work because of that situation, and because we've removed religion and we've treated religion as if it's the next incarnate of Satan, more or less. Now people have lost sight of like those values and morals of working hard, going out there, getting in, if you will. And so that's like the only thing I can think of. I was originally going to say that's why I asked the question as far as like, is the government incentivizing people to stay in? but I guess that's not what's happening either. And as far
No.
as like the raising salaries and everything like that, raising wages, like tell us more about the inflation, because here in America, like even despite the fact that wages are going up, it's not like because of the rate of inflation, like it's making like managers and employers, they can't raise their wages any more than they already have.
Yep.
But it's also a situation where the workers, like, it's not really helping their situation with, paying their bills, as far as like, the increase of costs in general.
Yep.
So help the American audience explain like that, as far as like the inflationary aspect of things.
Well, inflation is at an all-time high. It peaked over 7% at one point. It went down. I know it went down a little bit last month.
And I'm sure Trudeau, like, it's like, yeah, see, I'm bringing down inflation.
Yeah, but interest rates are through the roof. So I mean, they really, they cancel each other. Obviously, salaries cannot follow that. I mean, who's going to give you a 7%, 7% increase
Right.
in salary overnight? It's just not going to happen, and it never
Mhm.
has. I mean, just normally the cost of living, you would give a raise of 1.5, 2%, 1.5, 2% for cost of living calculations, but 7%. So then what's happening, right? I mean, everybody, the employer is putting it on the client.
Mhm.
Have to, because I mean, they're in business, and they're going to lose money. It's costing them, obviously, to make a sandwich. This chicken it used to be $7 a pound, let's say, is now $12 a pound.
Right.
Right. So that's, we're literally talking. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and he says, I used to buy my chicken in bulk, and it's literally 50% increased.
So how's that affected your life personally, if you don't mind letting the audience know? Like, how's inflation made your life harder as far as affordability?
I'll be honest with you, Ken. Um, I'm lucky, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I started my investments. I bought my home pre this mess. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So I bought my home 6 years ago, uh, and it's increased dramatically in value. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky because I live not a frugal life. My wife is. We have a nice home.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, we have just cars that just could get us to A and B.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go crazy, but it has affected me because I'm thinking twice, three times, four times before I even make a large purchase, or even vacationing with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, if you are indebted for whatever, I mean, I obviously have credit lines for investments and real estate and this and that. So of course it affects that. So you're going to think twice about making decisions, right? I
Right.
mean, and everything is so much more expensive. Before, I talked about my kids and just camps for baseball and skiing. And, this, for example, this winter we made a decision that maybe we're going to ski a little less this year because it's so expensive.
Mm.
And we don't know that with interest rates, right? Luckily, I have a fixed rate on my mortgages, but it's definitely affecting me personally. We're going to think twice. Already we were very good with our decisions, but now I would tell you we're thinking twice. Before, I wouldn't think twice. I say, whatever my kids want, whatever we want, even if I wanted something, what, I deserve it, I'm going to give it to myself, I'm going to buy it for myself, whatever. Not right now. Not right now. I could assure you. So definitely, it is having an impact on me individually, and I know for a lot of Canadians that are in already in a heap of trouble financially. So
Mm.
it makes me sad. I am worried for a lot of my fellow Canadians, and even Americans, for what
Yeah.
this means. I am very concerned because, trust me, I've seen a lot of applications, mortgage applications. So I've seen a lot of financial situations. I could tell you, Ken, there are a lot of people that are just on the edge.
Mm.
They're just on the edge. So when I say on the edge, what I mean is as high as 75% of Canadians are one missed paycheck away from not being able to meet their monthly obligations.
Now compare that to, let's say that those individuals, compare that to like maybe 4 years ago. Would they be in that same boat? I would imagine.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
That's been so. You're already in a very dangerous spot. So now
Mm-hmm.
you bring in inflation, you bring in cost of living, and
Yeah.
interest rates through the roof. It's at a critical point now.
Were you taught financial education by any chance?
No, and I'm a huge advocate for that. And I'm
Ah,
so happy we're going to get into that. First of all, okay, so I have two. I have two young kids, right?
yeah.
Some of the shit that they're learning in school. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're telling me that you're not able, even I swear to God, or forget about um even a class, bringing in maybe a 1 day seminar, bring in a guy like me,
Mm-hmm.
bring in a banker, bring in a financial planner. Let me explain to you the importance of having good credit, kids,
Mm-hmm.
because 1 day this, and that. Let me explain to you the importance of doing a proper budget.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, but very effective. There is none of that. What happened to the? I don't know if when you did. I had home economics, where I literally learned to sew and cook in class. It
Wow.
was amazing.
No, we did not have that.
Now, okay, I'm a lot older than you. Okay, I'm 47,
Yeah.
but my high school did have. It was called home economics. I'll never forget it. It taught us how to, and I still today can. When if I could still sew on a button because of that class.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking, I'm a kind of a disaster, but that's besides the point.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is maybe that factor in a little bit of financial education, how important is it,
Mm-hmm.
Ken? And I'm so happy you asked me that question. Some of the stuff they're learning in school, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? Really?
Mm-hmm. And that kind of gets into like the next point as far as like raising kids in these current woke environment education system now, where there seems to be more interest in pushing really gender ideology and sexualizing kids as a whole. I'm going to assume like you have your kids going to a public school right now. Um, and if so, how does that make you feel? What are your current sentiments? And have you considered, because a lot of parents, they're seeing what the public, here in America anyway, they're seeing the students and they're seeing what's going on with the public education system. And a lot of them just pulling them out and homeschooling them now. Is homeschooling on your radar now, as far as based on the current trajectory?
Okay, so right now I know that homeschooling it has is at an all-time high in terms of increase in
Mm-hmm.
popularity. I know actually somebody, a friend of mine, his sister, did not like how they were handling COVID and
Mm-hmm.
masks for children, and she pulled them out. And so that's just one example. I know another friend of mine, ex-client friend of mine. She has, I don't know, so she quit her job and she's homeschooling 4 children. And so
Or
I know that
children.
is, yeah, so it is on the right. So for me personally, Ken, I'm lucky. Um, I don't think right now at the level of education because my older son is in high school,
Mm-hmm.
secondary school, and my younger son is in primary school and elementary school, as we call it here in Canada. Yeah, probably same thing in the States.
Yeah.
So there is that's not an issue right now. In the schools that because my older son goes to a very good school as well. It's a public school, but a sought after school. It's sort of like semi private, highly
Mm-hmm.
rated in Quebec as one of the best public schools.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not worried about that. But I am worried about where the problem, the indoctrination is happening. I think is more on the
Mm-hmm.
college CJEP, what we call here, and university levels.
I see.
That's where. So I wanted to, I know that you guys came across this unbelievable story from I believe it's at a high school. I
I
could be
think it is
wrong.
high school.
It's the Oakville Trafalgar High School. So it's a high school, okay, guys? It's in Ontario. So Oakville is in Ontario. It's a suburb in Ontario. And this transgender middle-aged man transitioning to a woman. I don't know how. I guess one of the students released it. And I wish I could show you right now. If I was controlling StreamYard, I would show. But basically, this is a she. I'll call her she. is an industrial arts teacher. So if you could imagine, she has tremendously huge prosthetic breasts with the nipples protruding uh, through the shirt. Okay. Then has this horrible wig. This could honestly be a nightmare in any child's. Now they're high schoolers, thankfully, but
Hmm.
since I don't know how this didn't come about before this video came out. uh I mean, if
Hmm.
you can't tell me that one of those kids prior to this didn't go home and say, "Mom, you have to see my," or "Dad, you have to see my industrial arts teacher." So
Yeah.
basically, this sparked a frenzy online, and basically, the school board, the first, and Ontario right now is they're having a huge problem with this wokeness, huge
Yeah.
problem on all levels in university, even in high school, huge problem.
Hmm.
And that's in Ontario, and actually the University of Toronto. That's where the famous Dr. Jordan Peterson was teaching, right?
All right.
That's where it started. All started there. So finally, they're saying that the Ontario's education minister, Stephen Lecce, asked the Ontario College of Teachers on September 26th to review and consider straightening professional conduct provisions. Because first the thing was, she has every right to dress and express herself, and so um, I honestly I have to believe. I mean, and this has made I think it's become international that I don't know if this is a publicity stunt, honestly, or is he just like trying to make fun of the situation, or if
Trying to prove a
it
point.
really is, or try to prove a point to how silly it is. But that doesn't seem, because I'm still looking at it, it doesn't seem that way.
Hmm.
Um, so now they're finally reviewing the professional standards. But my point is that, again, like you've said, these high schoolers, my son is a high schooler. He's 13 years old. At 13 years old, what are you processing? Honestly, your
Hmm.
mind, your brain is not fully developed till at least 21 years old when you're a man. Okay. And you're seeing this and you're normalizing this as a school district. You're normalized. My son or my child has to see this with huge prosthetic breasts, nipples literally protruding through the shirt, this wig. I I don't know where it became, the education in schools became this liberal bastion for wokeism. And hey, what happened? Teach your fucking curriculum and stay out of everything else. I could care less if you're gay. I could care less if you're transgender. I could care less about your sexual preferences. I don't give a shit. Teach my child. That's it. That's all. Don't talk to him about anything. I don't. Do, Ken, do you remember? I remember when I was going to school. Did I care what my teacher did that weekend? Did I care who he or she went and banged this weekend? Did I care where they went on a Friday night and how much alcohol they drank?
I don't remember really anything or learning anything about their private lives. Like, if
Never.
I saw them in public, I was shocked that they
Yeah,
even had a
yeah,
life.
yeah, exactly. Or even, walk into them and run into them at the grocery store, Costco. I was like, oh, and my parents, hey, why don't you say hi? No, no, no. Like my kids do
Mhm.
now, right? Sometimes we'll run into a teacher. They don't want to know nothing, right? So
Right.
right now, thankfully, my both of my children have not said anything to me uh, of that nature. It's strictly education. It's strictly.
Mhm.
But when did it become okay, Ken? When did it be? We don't care about strangers' lives. I don't care about strangers. I don't even care about my friends' personal life. Do what you want to do in your own time. I don't care. You treat me good, we're good. I don't care. Do you think I'm going to care? My children are going to care what their teachers do under, and that did now this need to come out. I'm transgender. I'm lesbian. I'm gay. I don't care. I don't care. And neither do my kids. And I can't believe that parents now have to go to school board meetings to fight for this. because now you're hearing about books that they're putting in libraries. I can't believe I've seen stuff on social media. I can't believe where you see school board meetings, parents just lambasting the school district for allowing these books and drag queens reading story time. What the fuck is going on?
You don't take it. Yeah, it's like you don't take your kid to a strip club. It's becoming, it's sexualizing children. And I told you this story before when, and this is just in my lifetime about the kid, my friend, who convinced him to put the fingernail polish on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in elementary school. And all of a sudden, and then once he went to school the next day, they sent him to the school notes to remove it and then called his parents, like, you should have a conversation about like fingernail polish. Is it really for boys? And now the carpet will be rolled out for him in today's society. And that's just in my lifetime.
But why? Sometimes I'm like, I come back to very simplistic, but why? Why are we trying to normalize sexuality in children? Why are we trying to normalize pedophilia? Why?
Because we lost, I would say we lost the value of children. I think there's a huge paradigm. I think Michaela Pierce, you kind of alluded to this when she was talking about when she got pregnant, everyone saying like, oh, you just destroyed your life or ruined your life. Whereas like, you know, my grandparents' generation anyway, like when they had kids, it was viewed as a gift. And society like valued children. And now, as a result of, again, I'm going to pivot back to secularism. The evils and the consequences of secularism, removing that influence in society. The idea that there's a higher power that holds people to a objective standard of morality.
And but it is related to everything we've spoken about tonight.
It is, but no one really talks about it either, and that's hence the show Taboo Topic. It's taboo, but anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. it's perfect.
And so in that society like that, which the West was founded upon Christianity predominantly, like children, I mean, Jesus said, like, let the children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that was like the viewpoint that we had on children. So there was a huge like emphasis on society to protect children at all costs. And now, because we view children as a burden, many people don't like it. We have a lot of people that say they hate children now, right? And in society, in Russia, for example, we have a culture in Russia where you can go to a restaurant and they have like an actual setting where if a parent comes in, they have kids, they're showing out. There's like an actual position in some of these restaurants in Russia where they'll go ask the parents if they can take their kids so the parents can have some alone time and they can read stories to the kids, because that's just to promote this culture of really, we value children.
I love that.
But here in the West, we've lost sight of that.
Well, you could lose sight as going to a restaurant and there's a kid and you see the parents are clearly just want a night out, but they're having trouble with their kid crying. And I could empathize with that. And you see the other people that don't have children like saying, how dare you ruin my night, right? Again, you know what? Society wouldn't continue if those people didn't have these kids. Where would we go? It's the constant evolution, right? We need these children. Right. And I will protect them at all costs to remain children, because my beautiful memories of my childhood. How do you think you're doing any service to a child, bringing in a, whatever you want to call it, transgender performer, or I don't know what you call them. When did this start? Reading stories? What the fuck? What is, I have no, I can't even articulate any proper words. I just sound like a buffoon because it's just, the idea is so absurd to me. Like, when did this become an idea? A drag queen coming in to read a story. Can you imagine 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old looking like, what is going on here? What is that? What is this creature? How could this any way, shape, or form be good for a child? What is going on? You know, and we're all talking about woke education. You know, I don't know if I ever shared this. Why can't you just be, for one thing about my premiere in Quebec here, okay, so equivalent to the governor
Mhm.
in the States,
Yeah.
says, no, universities are not safe spaces. No, university students are not going to choose what they learn or what part of history they learn, just like they did in Germany.
Hmm.
You know, right? How many kids saying, "Oh, it's it's having an effect on us. We can't talk about the Holocaust." Well, tough luck, Cookie. We did those atrocities. We did them, and you're gonna fucking learn about it so that we never do it again. So sit down and learn about your Holocaust history and shut up. They wanted to take it out of the curriculum.
Really?
Let's forget about all that. So it's the same thing like saying, you know what? Well, mind you, we don't even talk about it. Let's forget about all the atrocities we did to the indigenous people in Canada, especially with the residential schools. Let's just forget
Hmm.
about it. This doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It might affect some universities. What is it called? They might be triggered. Can you believe we're at to the point that we have to be afraid of triggering university students, adults, about the atrocities of our history, of our country's history, the literal atrocities. It was a Holocaust what we did. It was equivalent to a Holocaust what we did to the indigenous people. And you're gonna sit there and say, I'm triggered by learning about these atrocities. Fuck you. That's what
Mm.
I tell you.
Well, so let me ask you this then, real quickly, because you have a son that's like going to be college age soon, everything like that. What do you
Yeah.
tell your kids as far as like seeking higher education? Like, what's the message now based on what you've seen?
My message to him has been, I mean, my younger one is still too young, but with Alessio,
Uh-huh.
he's 13, I just tell him, Alessio, if there's one thing I want from you is to be able to think for yourself. Listen to
Hmm.
your teachers, yes, but you have to know that everything they talked about, everything you learn about in a book, you have to question. Okay, don't be afraid to go out there because now it's unlimited. You could get so much information. So you could go out there, make your own decisions, and then you're going to be able to decide what you want to do with your education. And I'll be fine with it as long as you're happy and as long as you can make your own decision and you could question everything. And I'm already starting to see it in him. He questions a lot, right?
Hmm.
Because obviously having me as a father, he sees the way I speak, he sees the way I think, he sees how I question everything. um
Hmm.
so I think that obviously, hopefully, that will rub off on him and his brother. um so that's what I tell him. I tell him, you decide what you want to do with your education. And again, right now I'm lucky, the schools that they are, that's not an issue
Right.
in terms of, they're sticking really to the curriculum. And I haven't heard any of this. I'm pretty sure I would have.
Hmm.
So that's what I just tell them. I said, be your own individual and don't be afraid. Above all, question everything.
Mm. I see. Well, critical thinking is frowned upon, in especially with Justin Trudeau,
No, it's
which
not.
that's what led to the Freedom Convoy. And I want to get into that a little bit, like the aftermath of the Freedom Convoy, pretty much almost a year later. Almost. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
Uh, was it a success? And if not, how, what went wrong? And is there any new developments since the Freedom Convoy as of right now?
Well, I don't. I think it was a huge success.
Mm-hmm.
Why I say that is because uh, it further put a spotlight on how incompetent this government is,
Mm.
and I think it did bring um, a lot of people together in our country, that they chose to not hate but respect people's individuality and bodily autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And vindication has come now, right? Because all the stories, I mean, the what is the snakes out of the bag, whatever,
Yeah.
the
Cat's out of the
Pfizer
bag.
and the cats out of the bag, Pfizer, Moderna, and saying, that it was
Right.
never tested for transmission. And we see the statistics now, and basically it does shit. Okay. So uh, there is that vindication, and it showed that a huge population, they're disgust and their right to protest the government. And
Hmm.
just a little bit shortly after that, they did lift finally those all the mandates, the travel and everything. So it was a success, even though it ended by them the government enacting the Emergencies Act. So something really a development now is that they have called for, and it's started already, what could be equivalent to I told you a Saturday Night Live skit is what they're calling the Emergencies Act inquiry. So they
Yeah.
have people from the government questioning people on both sides, protesters and the cops and governments and whatever people, or the citizens of Ottawa that were scared for their life.
With the horn
But
honking.
yeah. That they were the minute that they got out of their house, that they were attacked and brutalized, and by sandcastles and hot tubs and kids singing and playing hockey and singing and dancing and dance parties. My God, those animals. Let me tell you, they were animals. So this, why I say it's a Saturday Night Live skit, is there's
Okay.
one. There was the now no longer the police chief of Ottawa was there. And again, I wish I could share this. I'm gonna have to share it on my next podcast. And it was so beautifully acted. There's two examples. Like, here's so the police chief has asked him, "Can you tell us about the effect that it had on morale and on you personally in leading your team or whatever, and your police officers?" This is him, Ken. He starts crying, Ken. He started crying. Please, after this, go look at it. Go find it, please. Or I'm going to try to find it. I'm going to send it to you. He starts crying and how it affected the morale and it was just so hard. I thought I'm like, no, this is a skit. Anytime I'm gonna see the SNL skit, the actor, or this can't be real. This can't be real. This
I
can't be
only
real.
thought of a feminine voice when you started doing that.
So this is what's going. It's still going on right now. It's just amazing. And then there was another example. There was someone from Quebec. Okay, so he starts singing, and so the guy's questioning him, and he's asking him, "You said this and that," and then all of a sudden, so yes, a representative next to him. I don't know if it was his lawyer or whatever. I'm not sure who it was. So basically, you see it in the interview, Ken, that the person basically says like, "Oh, make believe that you misinterpreted because you only speak French." The guy's perfectly bilingual, Ken. He's perfectly bilingual. And then he switches to French. Oh, I didn't understand the question. So when that at the moment when it happened, it was a miscommunication. It's so blatant. It's so amazingly in your face. Like, not even an attempt to hide the fakeness, not even an attempt to hide the lies. It's incredible. It's incredible. You have to check this out. It's Academy Award winning stuff.
Except this is real life. This is not acting or theater.
No, this is well, yeah, it's.
I mean, it is a
life.
theater, but it's real life.
It's just it's incredible. It's really incredible. So I'm just trying to go through and even the leaders of the Freedom Convoy, as it was known, Tamara Lynch and Pat King. Let me see here. Face criminal charges related to their involvement in the protest, including Tamara Lynch and Pat King. Keith Wilson, a lawyer representing a number of key convoy organizers, said before the inquiry that his clients are eager to talk about what is happening and why they were in Ottawa in the first place. So imagine, they're still threatening criminal charges against the leaders of the Freedom Convoy because they were arrested at the end, right? When the cops came in and the Emergency Act was enacted for only the second time in Canadian history. Second time for a protest. They call it an occupation, for a protest that was held right in front of Parliament, equivalent to your White House, with nothing but love, people from all over Canada and communities sharing food and music and dance parties and bouncy castles and hot tubs and cleaning the war monument. Okay, and the Terry Fox. Everyone knows who Terry Fox is. Our beloved Terry Fox. That went, coast to coast on when he was dying of cancer on literally one leg. cleaning the monument, because there's a Terry Fox and the war memorial right in front of the Parliament, cleaning it and making sure that they were standing guard, that no one would deface it, because someone had put like a Canadian jersey on Terry Fox, and
Yeah.
all the people that were against it were saying they defaced Terry Fox by putting a Canadian jersey on him. It's the exaggeration was just incredible. It was just the things you would hear. You would have to be here. You would have to be here, Ken. It's just I think honestly, when we look back at this, we're gonna be so embarrassed as Canadians, so embarrassed that we did this to ourselves, that we allowed to divide ourselves so bad. And it came from the top. It came when the top of the government is as dirty and disgusting and divisive as Justin Trudeau. What it did, and now it literally. And I just hope now. The only thing I hope is that we've seen a lot of things in social media that we were all wrong. Now we just got to admit that we were all wrong and just forgive ourselves, because the shit that we've said to each other for just deciding, think about it, Ken, just wanting the autonomy to decide whether or not I take a vaccine. And they locked us in our homes for years with curfews.
Please forgive us.
Yeah. So
what are the chances of Justin Trudeau like winning another election in the future, do you think?
Well, the development since now we have another Judas, unfortunately. The leader of the NDP, New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh, decided to, because Justin Trudeau has a minority government. Okay. So he could have easily, they could have easily called for a non-confidence vote when one of the his handling of COVID, for example, and had he lost it, then we would have had to go to the polls. So I think that the Conservative Party, led now by new leader Pierre Poilievre, I'm sure you've seen him. He is quite a popular and loud and just a common sense thinker.
Yeah,
I think would definitely defeat him right now, especially in the sentiment in Canada. Unfortunately, what Jagmeet Singh did, that little weasel, I'm gonna call him that, even though I want to call him that little weasel decided to have an agreement with him that he would support him on all bills as long as he got whatever he wanted in return. Something as ridiculous as free dental care for children for all Canadians. This is what was the most important to Jagmeet Singh. So basically, he sold his soul and literally the entire country down the river for nothing. So basically, he's just a liberal disguised as a new Democratic Party, whatever the hell that is. He's completely useless. So he's in essence keeping the Liberals and Justin Trudeau in power right now. And it's agreed that this consolidation, that he's going to support him on all his bills till the end. So now for us to see that the most gracious and beautiful day that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party will finally take out the Liberals, we have to wait for another 2 years because of the NDP. So who knows, right? What could happen in 2 years? Unfortunately, a lot of Canadians are really stupid and short-minded, and they'll forget how we've been treated. And some of them will probably say, "Oh, the government was doing their best and they did it for our own good." Still, so I mean, you just can't fix stupid. You can't, and I'm disgusted by that. And I can't believe that he even has any remote chance of winning another majority government or even another government, even a minority one. But unfortunately, there's a lot of stupid Canadians. Unfortunately.
So, explain then. Do you think? I don't know. Because we talked about this like off air as well, and I think we briefly talked about it in the beginning. I don't remember anymore. But do you think Justin Trudeau knows what he's doing and he's playing ignorant, or do you think he's truly ignorant, or does he think he's truly ignorant in the sense like he genuinely believes what he's doing is the right thing to do, or you think he's just a little tyrant, like he knows exactly what he's doing and he doesn't care anymore?
I think he's all that. I think he's a narcissistic tyrant,
Yeah,
and I truly believe that he truly believes that he's doing the best for Canadians and that they love him for it, and that his way is the only way. And
including the ban on handguns.
oh, for sure, absolutely. Oh, are you kidding me, Ken? I'm surprised they didn't get rid of guns completely.
What
He'll
else is there then?
like, even who knows? He'd probably say no guns for hunting anymore. Are you
I
kidding?
see.
Would you think this guy has a limit? He has no limit. He has no shame, Ken. I'm telling the guy. I think I don't know if he's a sociopath. He really is. He's a sociopath, narcissistic, or he's really good at playing stupid because he will never answer a question. Never, never. He's gonna forget. Oh yeah, I kept you locked in for 2 years. I nearly killed you. I nearly killed all my population. And yet, but what do you want when you put him into power a third time? You voted. Of course, he's gonna think it's only gonna feed the beast.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, Canadians were too. This will never fly in Canada. But the ban on handguns, I'm not surprised, because he could literally look at what he got away with during COVID. You think now guns? That's nothing. That's an afternoon, a couple of hours. It's done. Yeah, okay, we'll obey, and that's it. It's finished, like we always do.
So
I can't believe how much. Not, I'm still angry. I'm still angry because we're feeling the ramifications of COVID and how they handled it today. And I
mhm.
cannot believe, and I can't fathom, and I can't accept how not the majority of Canadians are still pissed off what they did to us. I can't believe how more people not feel exactly the way I feel. I still get agitated. I still, I so angry what he did to us, what he did to our kids, what he did to an entire generation of, and everything's come out, and it all came true. We all knew it was going to end up this way. But yet, they tried their best.
I see. So I guess to wrap things up, like,
Hmm.
do you think there's a chance to turn the tide in Canada as far as the political landscape? Are you optimistic, or you have more of a pessimistic view of the reality as far as like turn the ship?
Unfortunately, I'm usually I am a pessimistic person. Okay, um, but could we go back? Yes, because prior to this loser, we had back-to-back mandates with Stephen Harper and the Conservative government. Was
Mhm.
was 8 years of the most amazing 8 years in Canadians history.
Mhm.
He was fantastic prime minister. He was well respected. He knew economics. He understood what it took. He defended Canada. He looked out for Canadian rights. So I know that we could get back there, but we need to get rid of the liberals, because now the liberals that we discuss, I'm not sure, but it's not liberal anymore. It's not classic liberal. Now it's become another sort of completely um,
Marxist.
Marxist, virtue signaling. Let's concentrate on certain things, and everything else will, like when they asked him, "What do you think about the budget's going to balance itself?" Are you fucking kidding me? Like, the economy, as we're seeing now, is the most important thing of any country. You want to be do you is he's going to be happy when we're going to become Venezuela? That's what I think. He wants to become Venezuela or Cuba. Oh
Or
no,
China. He does
he loves
China.
China. He loves
He
China.
loves China. We know that much.
We know that much. He said it outright.
Yes, he
It's so much
did. We
easier.
have it on camera.
So much easier to pass laws like the Chinese do when people listen. So much more easier to put things into law and make your
And you
decisions
force
that you want.
people,
Yeah,
and you
it's
coerce people.
guys. You think it's made up? This is not made up, guys. This is the reality of my government right now. And yes, to answer your question, the only hope right now is in 2 years a conservative win, or Jack Meet Singh wakes up one morning and says, "I've had enough of this asshole." Uh, I won't put my money on that. So I can't believe we're going to be stuck with this another 2. He's already finished off the country. We're pretty much we're dead. I don't know how much more damage he could do. It's incredible.
Hmm.
It's incredible.
Well, we definitely need more voices like you in Canada, Luigi. And it's actually one of the reasons why I have you on my show, because you literally spit out information out there and opinions that really maybe Canadians don't hear much, because I know for a fact that the media in Canada is pretty much state control at this point, and they're just spewing. There's basically puppets for the government at this point. And so people like yourselves, you're like the breath of fresh air that the Canadian population needs. And I mean, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and give your plug in again for your show when you have your show on, as we close things out.
I appreciate the kind words, Ken, and I've really enjoyed meeting you and doing several podcasts with you, and I really appreciate that. So, like I said before, you could find the audio version, the podcast version on anywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio. Now that's new. That's pretty cool. And I do usually my shows live on Thursday evenings on Facebook at Agree to Disagree Show, and on YouTube at YouTube / Agree to Disagree Show, live on Thursday evenings normally. And my social media is the same thing on Instagram at Agree to Disagree Show, and all the information is there when new shows are coming out. So, oh, you're still on mute.
Gotta edit that out for the audio version. Anyways,
no worries.
Anyways, folks, thanks again for tuning into today's show. I really appreciate Luigi appreciates you tuning in as well. Again, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button. Also, give his Instagram and social media platforms a follow, and be sure to hit and like the subscribe button on his YouTube channel as well at the Agree to Disagree Show, and on Facebook. Right, you have live stream on Facebook as well. Yep. So please check his show out. Again, I've been on there, and that's where we actually get into the discussion of abortion a little bit. So that was a pretty fun conversation to have. And folks, you can have different opinions and still respectfully disagree. And that's what his show is all about. So with that said, folks, until next time, y'all have a great